Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive. Today we are going to be tackling a topic that I know a lot of you guys are really interested in,
Okay.
and that is improving English speaking skills.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're looking at some sources focused on tips for more confident conversations. And we're kind of gearing this towards beginner and intermediate levels.
Right.
People who are just kind of starting out or, they're in the middle and they just want to get a little more fluent.
Yeah, I think the sources that we have today are really going to help with that because a lot of the things that we're talking about are very practical tips.
Yeah.
And they're all about building confidence. They're not so much about, let's learn all this grammar.
Right.
It's about, let's get you talking.
Yeah.
And, feeling good about speaking.
Exactly. And I think sometimes with language learning, we can get really bogged down
Yeah.
in the details, in the,
Totally.
grammar,
Absolutely.
all that stuff. So I'm excited to kind of extract the most valuable tips from what we've got here today.
All right, let's do it.
So the first thing that really jumped out at me
Yeah.
was this idea of mastering common phrases.
Okay. Yeah.
Why is this so important?
I think it's important because, for me, when I was learning languages, I was always so worried about getting the grammar right.
Yeah.
And so worried about, trying to, construct some, perfect sentence in my head.
Yeah.
And then I would just freeze up.
Yeah.
But when you know common phrases, you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
It just comes out naturally.
It's like having those, go-to moves
Yeah.
in a dance routine or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You're just doing it.
Yeah, you're just in the flow.
Yeah.
And you know what I noticed from the research is that it can actually like trick your brain into thinking more in English.
Oh, interesting.
When you're not translating in your head, you're just, speaking.
But how do you get to that point? What are the...
Well, they talked a lot about listening and repetition, Yeah.
Like they talked about things like shadowing, where you listen to a native speaker and you just try to repeat exactly what they're saying with the same pronunciation, the same intonation.
Got it.
Like you're an echo.
Okay. I like that. Okay, so another tip that we came across that I thought was kind of interesting was slowing down your speech.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Because I feel like, especially when you're learning language, you just want to get it out.
I want to get it over with.
Yeah, you're like nervous. You just want to get to the end of the sentence.
I know. And that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because when you rush it, nobody understands you.
Right.
And you don't sound confident. You sound nervous. It's much better to just slow down.
Okay.
Take your time.
So it's not about how fast can I say this?
No.
It's about how clearly can I say this?
Exactly. Yeah. And they made a comparison to music. If you're learning an instrument, you don't start out playing a really complicated piece at full speed.
Right. You slow it down, you practice each note.
Yeah.
And you gradually build up the tempo.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it applies to language too.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so another big one. Expanding your vocabulary.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, people, they hit this wall. And they're like,
right.
There are so many words.
I know.
How can I ever learn all of these?
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the research suggested that you don't have to learn every word at once. Focus on a few words at a time, learn them really well, and then try to use them in sentences.
Okay, so it's more about the context.
Yes, context is everything, because if you just learn a word in isolation, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah, I used to do flashcards all the time.
Yeah.
And it never really stuck.
Right. It's like trying to learn a recipe just by reading the ingredients.
Yeah.
You need to see how they come together.
Yeah, you need to see the whole picture.
You need to taste it. Yeah.
So they suggested things like using visual aids, creating stories around new words, even like acting out scenarios.
Yeah.
To really make it come alive.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about mastering phrases, slowing down, building vocabulary. What is kind of the final piece of the puzzle here?
I think the final piece is practice.
Of course.
You can learn all the tips and tricks you want.
Right.
But if you don't practice, you're not going to get better.
But what does that look like?
It looks like, integrating English into your daily life.
Okay.
Not just studying from a textbook.
So like watching movies.
Yes. Watching movies.
Listening to music.
Listening to music.
Like finding people to talk to.
Yes, finding people to talk to. Maybe even find a language partner.
Oh, like a buddy?
Yeah, someone who's also learning English.
Yeah.
And then you can practice together.
Yeah.
You can motivate each other.
Perfect.
You can celebrate your successes together.
That's awesome. So I guess, as we're wrapping up here, what do you think is the biggest takeaway?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you don't have to be perfect.
Okay.
Fluency is not about perfection.
It's about progress.
It's about progress. It's about confidence. It's about, feeling comfortable, expressing yourself, even if you make mistakes.
Awesome. So here's a question for all of you listening out there. What's one common phrase that you can start using today?
Oh, I like that.
Maybe you've heard it before, maybe you haven't. But what's one that you can start using today to kind of put this into practice?
That's a great challenge.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.